Welcome back to the shop. When we left off, we were putting our sanding sealer on our plane, and we got that done. It sanded it nice and smooth with 320 and 400 grit sandpaper. Now what we're going to do is, thank goodness, we got my silk in today. This came from Dharma Trading. And the nice thing about it, it is so inexpensive. I've got 3 yards, that's 9 feet of silk at 54 inches in width. Now, go to the hobby store and you can buy your silk there, and it'll come in a 3 foot by 3 foot square and cost you out the yin yang, unfortunately. You know, I just don't understand why some hobby shops don't order stuff from these mass warehouses at such a cheap price, spend a few pennies repackaging it or leaving it as is, and just go into the hobby shop and say, hey, send me, I need 3 yards of silk. You know, I think they would get a lot more business if they did that. But that's neither here nor there. Silk has been used to cover airplanes long before I ever got into it. And the nice thing about silk is it's thin, and it shrinks, and it's coverable, and it lasts forever. Now, let's talk about what we're going to need to do the silk and dope of the wing. Of course, we've got our silk. You're going to need some good brushes. These brushes I get at Hobby Lobby over in the art department. These are camel hair brushes. Now there are two types of brushes that work great for painting silk and dope. One is a camel hair, which is this, got a real nice soft bristle to it. These are brand new and they're still kind of stiff from having the preservative in them. Once you wash them out, they are extremely soft. And they're cheap. It's amazing how cheap they are. But what I do is I'll use my 20% off discount or whatever discount I can get on the computer. I think it's 20, maybe 40. I don't know. But I use the discount and buy a couple of packages of brushes. That way I can use them. And if I run one, I just haven't lost a whole lot of money. But these are called Crafter's Choice. You get them at Hobby Lobby. And I don't recall how much this set me back, but I think it was less than $8 for a package of 5 brushes. So anyway, next thing you're going to need is some good scissors. I like these. These are really good for making those long cuts. Now this is a little tool you can get at Hobby Lobby, and it is fantastic for cutting silk. And we're going to show you how to use this later in the tape, so stick around. We've got our dope. As you notice here, it's SIG Super Dope. It's a butyrate. It shrinks, it's clear, and we're going to use it full strength in the beginning. Now, first step is that we're going to dope around our entire outside area of our aircraft, starting with the bottom of the wing. We always do the bottom of the wing first, and then wrap the top over it. That way you don't have to see a seam or something. So, let me put our silk over here out of the way because we're not going to need it right now. Now, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take our dope, which is full strength, not thinned or anything. And we're going to dope the perimeter of our aircraft. And we're just going to stay on the outside edges. Now this will soften the dope that we have on there already. But this is going to provide our glue to hold our silk on. We're not going to put any dope on the ribs or the spars. Now this dope is going to dry long before we put the silk on it. But that's all right. See how nice that brush, really flexible and holds the dope. Now we'll do this side. As I mentioned, or I should have mentioned before, this dope has not been thinned, it's full strength. Now, let me tell you about the different kinds of dope. There's taunting dope, and there's non-taunting. Taunting means it will shrink. The dope I'm using right now, the SIG Supercoat, is a taunting dope. Means it's going to shrink. now. Now remember, this is the bottom of the wing. And I'm going to silk right over all of these open bay areas. All right. Now we're going to set this aside and let it dry. And then we're going to go over it again with not any more dope, but we're going to go over it again and check it out. Cut our silk out for the wing, and I think I'll go ahead and dope the other side now. As soon as this dries, I'll dope the other side because we're going to silk one side and then the other side. One side and the other side. We don't want to silk the whole bottom and let it shrink, because what'll happen is it'll shrink and it'll warp the wing. We're going to silk one side of the wing, turn it over, silk the top of the wing, so that these both dry at the same time and shrink the same amount so we don't get a warp, and do the same with this side. We've got to let this dope dry here for a while, and then we can flip it over and dope the other side. Now, wait till the end of the tape. I got some really good information, a secret about silk that only us old timers really know about. So hang around, and if you like what you see, press the like button, and if you want to make sure you catch the next episode, subscribe to my channel, and as soon as the next episode comes out, you'll be notified. So until then, goodbye. Okay, what I'm doing now is I have a piece of 500 grit sandpaper, and I'm just barely, lightly going over all the areas that I put on the clear dope. All I want to do is just make sure to knock off any little nibs, any little dirt that's stuck into the paint, the clear dope. Make sure the ribs are nice and clean. While you were away, I went ahead and cleared the stabilizer. And right now I just want to make sure I don't have any dirt nibs or grain sticking up that would affect the silk going over the wood, over the doped areas. Plus I don't want any raised balsa wood sticking up on any of the ribs. Now this is an old airplane. I mean, this plane was built back in the 70s. Therefore, there's a lot of, hanger damage or hanger rash that was on it that needed to be taken care of. Now, even though I've gone over it, you know, it's still not going to be a perfect plane to silk and dope. But I just kind of like to silk and dope it instead of putting some Monaco back on it, because it is an old airplane and it does have some value to it that, you know, airplanes of this era would accumulate. Back then, if you wanted to fly an airplane, you either had to get a kit or scratch build it yourself. There's no such thing as going down to the hobby shop and buying one that was in a box. All you had to do is turn it on and fly it. No sirree. Now, as you can see, I'm not really doing a lot of sanding on this. I'm just wanting to make sure I don't have any balsa wood sticking up or any paint sticking up that's going to interfere with the silk. Even though the artists and the toy foamies have brought a lot of people into the hobby that probably never would have been in the hobby to start with if it was something that they had to build to go fly it. However, my experience is that most of the guys that buy the toy foamy, they're looking for instant gratification. And usually once that toy foamy has been mastered, they move on to something else. They really don't stay in the hobby very long. What they have done is caused many of the major municipalities to prohibit flying model airplanes on the school grounds or in the public parks, which is a shame, because let's say you did have a toy foamy and you took your kids to the park for a picnic or a family get-together or something like that, and you had a toy foamy with you and you decided to fly it around the park a little bit. Well, these guys that got out there with the drones and their arse ruined that. So anyway, see, there's a little rough spot right there that would have caught on the silk. Get rid of it. Okay. sanded. And we are looking good. Now, let's kind of brush off our workspace here. We want a clean table to get our silk out. Okay, let's get our silk over here. Now, as I stated, this silk comes from Dharma Trading. They're out of California, and this is called China silk, or Haboitai silk. I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm not Japanese or Chinese. Now, the really nice thing about the silk that I get, it's 54 inches wide. Normally, you buy silk at the hobby store or at Hobby Lobby or whatever. It comes in about a 3-yard square, which not really enough to do anything with, and expensive. Now, this silk has a finished edge. Evidently, I got either the beginning of a roll or the end of a roll. Actually, they don't call it a roll. They call it a bolt. Now, let me tell you something about silk. Silk has a grain to it. Just like wood, just like most cloths, all have a grain to them. And this silk, this is a what's known as 8 mm, 8 mm. It's not millimeters, that's mm. And it's a little heavier than the 5 that I've used on my glider. And this is going to be really strong. It's going to be easy to feel, and that's what I like about it. It's a little bit heavier, 8 mm instead of being 5 mm. Now, about the grain. You know, a lot of us old-timers, we like our ribs to be seen in the material. In other words, we like to see a little dip between the ribs. It just looks good. Some people prefer not to have them. They want that silk right straight across all those ribs. And how do you get that little sag between the ribs and still have a really tight wing? Okay. Silk will shrink more from the length of it than the width. The length may shrink 10%. The width, that's going from this end to this end, may shrink 3%. So if you put the material on the wing this way, the way I've got it laid here, if we put the silk on the wing in this material, this direction, it will shrink and have a very little sag between each rib, between each bay, and it'll show off the ribs. Does it help the plane fly any better? Hell, I don't know. I just know it looks good to me. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to stretch out our material so that we can cut it. All right. Now, I need enough material. This is the bottom. This is what we're going to be covering. But since the top and the bottom are the same size, I won't need enough material that I can wrap this up and have enough to grab a hold of. Want enough material to cover the wingtips. And enough material back here. Now, okay, let's try it this way. There we go. All right. Now, okay, there's one sheet. Now, we've got plenty of overlap. Perfect. All right. Now, we'll cut another piece. Hopefully I've got enough on this end to cover this wing, but maybe not. We'll see. No. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our wing, we're going to set it right there. All right. These used to be my good silk cutting scissors, but these are the ones I use the most now. Okay. Okay, there's the 4 pieces for the wing. welcome back. All right, what we've done so far, we sanded our wood, made sure we didn't have any nicks or nibs or dirt in it, and then we also cut our silk to the proper width, and we've got our grain and our silk running across the rib, so that this wing has got a slight sweep to it. I've lined the grain with the rib. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our dope and we're going to start getting this laid down. Okay, what we've done is we've got water in our bottle here. It's a purified water, distilled water. It's not tap water. One thing you don't want to do is use tap water on your silk, because if you have hard water, you're going to end up putting minerals on your silk, and when you go to paint it, wherever there's a mineral grain, just a small speck, you'll get what's known as a fisheye or a spot. So use distilled water in a good clean bottle. Now, some people have used Windex. Personally, myself, I just like to use plain water. Now, what we're going to do now is I've got my silk laid out. I've got my grain running parallel with my ribs. I'm going to spritz this down. Just to get it a little damp. That's going to hold my silk in place while I get some dope on it. Now, I've thinned my dope just a little bit to make it penetrate the silk a lot better. And it will go right through this silk, right onto the wood. Now we want to stretch our silk just a little bit here to get all the wrinkles out of it. There we go. Now we're just going to continue down our back trailing edge here a little bit. I like to work one rib spacing at a time. I want to be sure to get that dope through the silk onto the balsa wood. Now I'm using taunting dope, the SIG brand. And we're just going to do the perimeter of the wing. We're not going to do any of the ribs. We're not going to do the spars. We're just going to do the leading and trailing edges. And we're going to pull that tight. Now I can see that my silk is starting to dry out a little bit, which tends to make it kind of hard to work with. We get the silk wet again. Now we're going to take our wing and get off the edge of here so we can stretch this silk on around the tip. You'll be amazed that it's actually easier to do than trying to do it monocoat. Look at that. Now, I'm not going to put any more dope on that. I'm not going to put any more water on that. I'm going to let that just sit, because now I'm going to do the other side. I noticed a little bit of slack right here, so I need to pull this tight. And the best way to do it is to put a little dope on there and loosen it up. And stretch it tight. Now we're going to do this side. But now notice that we did not shrink this side of the plane yet. This wing has just gotten dampened and then applied. We're going to do the same thing here. I tell you, one day I was fixing to build a new airplane, and I had the plans, and I was going to order all the wood for it. And so I went to my favorite wood supplier, which is Balsa Wood Incorporated, and I ordered a rather large supply of balsa wood. and plywood. Pretty much everything I thought I would need for a while. Well, the box got here, and the wife said, "That's not another airplane." I said, "No, honey, it's not. Just a box of wood." She says, "Okay." So I guess she never thought anything of it after that, which is good for me. I'm pretty fortunate. And built an airplane. Well, I crashed one of my airplanes and broke the wing, but I was fortunate enough I could fix it, but I didn't have any silk or silk span. So I was in kind of a pickle. So that Sunday morning, I was reading the funny papers, and I thought, well, heck, I just take this newspaper and dope it onto the wing and paint it. I knew it wasn't going to shrink, but at least I could put it on the wing where it would cover the wing. And I had, plenty of dope. But still, I went out there and I covered that wing with newspaper. Put a bunch of coats of dope on it. And I'd be doggone if it didn't work for a while. There we go. We'll get the bottom of the wing covered. We're going to let this dope dry real good for about an hour. And then I'm going to trim it off. I'm going to flip it over. I'm going to do the top of the wing. So I think I'm going to go in the house, drink a cup of coffee, and about time for dinner. We'll get back out later and we'll do the other side. Okay, we're giving our dope a good length of time to dry. Now we're going to take a really sharp razor blade, a brand new razor blade, and we're going to go around and trim off the excess. There we go. Now, we're going to take our silk that's left over on our trailing edge, and we're going to lay it down. You can force that glue up into the fibers of the silk and make it lay down tighter. There we go. All right. Okay, now what you say we fix our wingtips at this stage? Take some sandpaper. It doesn't matter what grit it is. What we're going to do is we're going to feather edge that silk on our wingtip. going to do the same thing to the leading edge. Okay. All the dust, all the spent silk off of our workbench. There we go. Same procedure we did. Want to lay it out nice. Now I want to check and look at my strands of the silk, and I want them to run the same direction as my wing. All right, let's go ahead and get some dope on here and get this thing stuck down where we can pull it. Here we go. Yeah, once we get some dope on it, we can kind of massage it. And it will hold its place. stretching out these little weaves in there, little waves. And you'll have a nice tight wing. I don't know about you, but I think this is exciting. Getting a wing silked. Yes, sirree. That's looking really nice. Okay, welcome back. Now we're going to do the top side of the right wing panel. Do it just like we did the last three. Got it all spread out here nice and straight. Going to spritz it down a little bit. Start right back here. There we have it, boys and girls. That's the way you put the silk on your airplane wing. Just like that. We're going to let that dry. Then we're going to take some sandpaper and we're going to sand around the edge of it and cut all this excess off of it. Yes, sir. Put this away. This concludes our part 2 of the silk and dope of your RC airplane. Our next segment will be applying the colors. So please watch for it soon and press the like and subscribe button so you don't miss it. Thank you again and hurry back to see us.